This is the state of Victoria in the southeast corner of Australia. It has a windy, twisty border that runs for over 5,000 kilometres, half of that along the coast and the other half inland. And this is me. I'm Steph, I'm a private pilot, I'm an expert at leaning on planes, and I've been flying for over 10 years now. Most of us pilots were taught how to navigate an aircraft using a paper map, a pencil, a watch, a few other bits of equipment, and whatever we can see outside the front window. But the more you fly, the easier it becomes to let technology like GPS and autopilot do more of the hard work for you. So over the next 3 days, starting here in Melbourne, I'm going to attempt to trace the border of Victoria as accurately as possible using only the traditional techniques. I'll be facing some of the busiest controlled airspace in Australia.
But I can't get on the radio.
Low clouds, turbulence,
Jesus.
trying to navigate over narrow, winding rivers and featureless terrain.
I'm pretty sure I just overshot that.
Avoiding helicopters, restricted airspace and Australia's most unforgiving mountain terrain. But also, I'll be enjoying 3 days straight of some of the most spectacular and the most fun flying I think I've ever done. Nowadays my flying is basically straight lines, Sydney to Melbourne, Melbourne to Darwin, east to west, north to south. If one day all of that technology fails, am I going to still know how to navigate this aircraft to the destination using the traditional methods? Plus, it's just a bit of fun. It's something new for me. It'll be interesting to see how accurately I can fly the borders outlined, or, to be honest with you, whether it's even possible. Knowing what's ahead of me for the next couple of days, whether this whole thing is even possible. I think that's the real question we have to answer. There's always a ton of stuff it's like the back of the car. There's always a ton of things that you end up just throwing in the back of the plane, half of which you don't really need. Flying's like anything in life really. I think the tidier your approach with the gear that you're using, better your overall approach and mindset towards the whole exercise is going to be. To determine how accurately then I've flown the border of Victoria, I'm going to be using this GPS tracking device as I'm actually flying. I know there are systems like ADS-B where you can track aircraft, but sometimes I'll be in and out of coverage. This though connects to satellites. I've set it to do tracking logs every 30 seconds, and what I'll do at the end of the trip is overlay that track on top of a map of Victoria so we can see exactly how accurately I'm going to be flying this thing. I've got to be honest, I feel a bit anxious about this one. I think it's going to be quite telling of my abilities as a pilot, and it's, of course, you're nervous when you're sharing stuff like that with lots of people here on the internet. You're worried about being judged and people's opinions off you. It doesn't matter how long you've done this for. I think you can still sometimes overlook and forget the basics, but at the end of the day, I think the basics are the things that we need to keep coming back to. From an air traffic control point of view, this first leg is going to be the busiest of all of them. I've got to get out of Moorabbin, Class D airport, go through, there's a place called the Point Ormond drop zone, which is where all the parachutes come down. Then I've got to go around through Point Cook, military airspace, check that's not active. Then I've got to go through Avalon. There's a lot of airspace to get through just in the first sort of 15 minutes of this trip, just to get around the bay here in Melbourne before I even get out of the city. Busy start to day one. Select OK to start tracking.
Keep it straight.
Shorter 13 right, up to ready for a cross.
Everything's looking good. Airspeed's increasing on both.
So Charlie Golf 1.
70 knots, up we go nicely.
Okay, Yankee Zulu, can you say again your first tracking point?
We're going to track coastal northbound. We're just following the coast round to Avalon, Echo Zulu.
Okay, Yankee Zulu, understood.
Just in case you're new to the channel, there's 3 words you're going to hear quite a lot over the next couple of episodes. Echo, Yankee, Zulu. That's the registration of this aircraft, the one that I'm going to be using to fly the border of Victoria. It's a Cirrus SR-22, third generation, built in 2007. It's got a 310 horsepower engine, and it's a really versatile aircraft to do a mission like this. So every time you hear the words Echo Yankee Zulu, that's either me identifying myself to air traffic control, or it's air traffic control trying to get my attention.
Echo Yankee Zulu, traffic is a Cessna, probably just right of you, 12 o'clock now. They're quite low, 600 feet, but they're tracking to Ricketts Point to climb and join base.
Traffic in sight, and we're climbing to 2000, Echo Yankee Zulu.
Echo Yankee Zulu, copy.
Alright, let's find out if these zones are active. Melbourne Centre, Echo Yankee Zulu is coastal northbound. Request status of Point Ormond and Point Cook zones. Melbourne Centre, Echo Yankee Zulu request.
Echo Yankee Zulu, go ahead.
Echo Yankee Zulu, request status of Point Ormond and Point Cook restricted areas.
Echo Yankee Zulu, both are deactive at the moment.
Echo Yankee Zulu, thanks. I don't really need the map for this bit because just following the coastline, it's actually very beautiful.
Traffic, 9 o'clock, low, 0 miles.
The other thing about today is because the wind is quite strong,
50610,
like we saw on the ground.
240.
It's going to be a bit choppy. Before we get too close, we need to contact Avalon, but I can't get on the radio.
Delta Sierra, good day, clear direct Hiab 7000 on the Melbourne QNH 1023.
Avalon approach, Echo Yankee Zulu at Werribee South 2500. We'd like to track through your zone at 2500 following the coast round to the heads.
Echo Yankee Zulu, thanks, there's no traffic.
Echo Yankee Zulu. Well, you know, that was just very easy. I thought that might be a little bit more dramatic trying to get clearance from Avalon to go through their zone, but they just said okay. A few more clouds. The clouds are a bit lower here actually. What are we? 2,300 now. I've got to get down here to get underneath these. Alright, this little town is called Port Arlington.
Golf Tango India, contact approach 132.0.
And it's should be the end of the Avalon control zone. Echo Yankee Zulu just requesting a frequency change. Now we're outside of the Avalon zone.
Hi, that's approved frequency change approved, thank you.
Echo Yankee Zulu, thanks for your help. Okay. Oh, deep breath. We got through that first bit.
Zulu Tango, still no reported traffic between you and the circuit at Moorabbin. Contact tower for clearance.
Pretty hands.
So let's take a quick look at the path so far then. This is our departure from Moorabbin Airport. We turned out to the coast and started heading northbound like I told air traffic control. Not a bad circuit so far, staying pretty close to the coast. There's obviously a few bays that I haven't been in, which I probably would like to improve a little bit as the journey goes on. But then, as you zoom out a little bit, not a bad path all the way down to the south point here at Cape Otway as we start to turn north again and head towards the 12 Apostles. Pretty happy with that so far.
This is Cape Otway. Very pretty. It means that we're going to start getting into the 12 Apostles area, which is going to start being busy. So I've got myself on the new frequency, Port Campbell 1271. We should be at 1,000 feet heading northbound. Oh, it's going to be horrible down here with the wind. Port Campbell traffic, Echo Yankee Zulu is at Cape Otway, tracking westbound coastal 1,100. Port Campbell traffic. Nice to see some of this cloud lifting. I don't want to get my hopes up too much. I did check a second ago the weather for a place called Mount Gambier, which is basically just past the turning point inland, and the cloud is at 2,600 feet there, which is good, which means we can get over the headland or get over the terrain to turn inland. So fingers crossed that stays the same. The one advantage of being this low down for you watching this is that when we fly over the 12 Apostles, well, you should get a very nice view of that.
Traffic 11 o'clock, low 2 miles. Traffic 10 o'clock, low left down. Traffic 1 o'clock, low 2 miles. Traffic 10 o'clock.
Oh, it is busy. Port Campbell traffic, Echo Yankee Zulu is A-beam, Peterborough now, tracking westbound along the coast, 1,100. Port Campbell traffic.
Station Portland, first issued.
Melbourne Centre, Echo Yankee Zulu, we're tracking coastal westbound past Portland. Can we get that specky, please?
Okay, Yankee Zulu, no problem. It's from the auto station, wind is 150 degrees, 10 knots. Cloud is overcast, 1,300.
Many thanks, Echo Yankee Zulu. That's probably my biggest concern now is here on the map. So we're coming down the coast here. Just this part when we're going to turn inland and go up this line. This next part coming up to Portland will be, I think, fairly telling on how the rest of the day's flying is going to actually go. At the moment, to keep underneath this cloud, this is a lot lower than I'd like to be, a lot lower than I normally fly. And I'm just, I'm a little bit paranoid about things like paragliders, drones, helicopters, other aircraft. I'm trying to see up the coast. I can't even see up the coast as well, whether it's any clearer up there at the moment. I mean, I'd like to think it is. It doesn't look it. I believe Portland was the first white settlement. It wasn't Melbourne. Melbourne wasn't the first white settlement in the state of Victoria. It was down here in Portland. Portland also has a port, which I probably should have guessed from the name. Now I'm going to do one thing, and again this is purely for safety, but I'm going to cut a straight line across from one headland to the other because the cloud's low over there, and I can't be in cloud because we're visual, we're VFR. That's Cape Bridgewater. Thank you. Turbulence. Obviously the wind's coming from that direction, so it's going to come over the headland there. It's not going to be very pleasant just for the next couple of minutes. Oh god, it looks horrible up ahead. Right now, it's probably the worst it's been right now. Probably the biggest navigation challenge on this first leg of this trip around Victoria is not following the coastline. That's obviously fairly easy. I can just do that by following the coastline, but it's knowing when to turn inland to track that long straight line up the western side of the state. There's a small town that I've marked on here called Nelson, but that's tiny. I'm not exactly sure that I'm going to be able to identify that town of Nelson correctly, but I'm still going to try and visually spot Nelson, town of Nelson, on the ground as well. That's the town of Nelson because I know there's a little inlet on there. You can see that with the water, and then it's just going to be a mile past that when I need to make a right turn. Now I'm going to make a right turn to a heading of 351. I've got to write all this down. I've got to write the time down, and then it's 240 nautical miles in a straight line. I'm pretty sure we're there, so let's make our turn 351. I'm going to put it on my heading bug as well, so I have it on my heading bug. What we don't want to do is fly into the state of South Australia, because I'm not sure we're supposed to at the moment. In fact, I'm pretty sure I just overshot that. So let me just come back a little bit. I'm pretty sure, because I can see down on the ground the features that I'm supposed to be flying over. Yeah, I'm pretty confident I overshot that. Steph, that was sloppy.
So let's take a look at exactly how offline I was then when I made this turn. You can see one thing I can do is actually measure the distance from where I should have been to where the aircraft actually was. 512 metres, over half a kilometre offline. It's no wonder I was upset with that. I actually turned back in again, and you can see where I corrected it. And then the line actually goes fairly straight until around this point, which is where I started to have a few problems with drift correction.
I've got wind coming from my right-hand side now, and if I just hold this heading, there's something called drift, and if I don't correct for the drift, I'm just going to basically be blown into South Australia. Here we go, this is my heading at the moment, 354 I'm on. I've got the wind from 085, so the wind's coming basically from here. I take the entire component of the wind and use that as the angle to offset. So I should be flying at an angle of 351, but what I'm actually going to do is add 12 to that. So I should be flying instead at an angle of 363. took me too long to work out. What that should do now is it's going to point me in one direction, but the airplane's going to kind of be crabbing along sideways with that wind pushing me in one direction, and what we'll do is we'll keep an eye on that and just keep seeing how that's tracking as time goes on. I'm going to see if I can get us as high as 2,500 first of all, just to get out of these bumps. I don't miss having to fold maps in the cockpit, I'll say that. Babel Centre, Echo Yankee Zulu VFR flight following request.
Echo Yankee Zulu, Melbourne Centre.
Echo Yankee Zulu, we are 18 miles to the northeast of Mount Gambier, maintaining 4,500, tracking north up the border. Just wondered if we can get VFR flight following up to our destination, Mildura.
Echo Yankee Zulu, ASAM, I can see your ADSB paint there. Just give me a second, I'll locate your flight plan.
Echo Yankee Zulu, thanks. I think as well, I think I'm a little bit right of track, just trying to identify things on the ground that can help me out with that. I've got a town over to my right, which I think is Tarpina? No, Nangwarry, sorry, Nangwarry.
Echo Yankee Zulu, I've got your flight plan located, your score code 0576, there's no reported IFR traffic. You are identified, and the area QNH is 1021.
0576 and 1021, Echo Yankee Zulu. Excellent. The next thing I'm going to need to do is to work out when to turn towards Mildura now and follow the mighty Murray River, which we're actually going to be following for the rest of today and a large part of tomorrow's flight as well. I should be able to spot it, but you know, at this height, I want to stay at 6,500 at the moment because it's quite bumpy down low. So at this height, it's a tricky one, but this is the good thing about going back to map reading. See that? It's called Lake Victoria. It's a big lake, and I know it's the other side of the border, and the good thing is I can see it. I can see it out the front window. If I go past the lake, I've gone too far, so I'm really just looking out for the Murray River now. Okay, I think that's my turning point, Murray River below me. We're at the top of our 243 nautical mile straight leg up, so I'm going to do a right turn. Got to do it fairly tight here. Now there's no way whatsoever that I'm going to be able to follow the exact path of the Murray River. You can see from the camera, hopefully under the wing there, it's just snaking. So I'm just going to try and do the best job I can to average out those bends. And meantime, the other thing that I need to do is start to get us ready for getting into Mildura.
Available gas, New South Wales West.
I shall see you tomorrow, Murray River. Sandy checks brakes, undercarriage stand lock, mixture full, rich fuel pump goes on, instruments and switches all checked, latches and harnesses secure.
500.
500.
And that's what we've been following for the last 50 or 60 nautical miles, the mighty Murray River. I'm sitting at the moment on the banks on the Victorian side, the south side of the river. This is Mildura. Over on the other side, that's New South Wales. The Murray runs for about 2,500 kilometres all the way down to the coast in that direction. But in that direction, which is where we're heading tomorrow, are the Snowy Mountains and the origin of the Murray River. So we've got a big day of flying coming up. I've not only got to navigate the Murray to find the source itself, I've got to get through controlled airspace, but then of course flying over some of the most remote and rugged terrain that Australia has to offer. And then get myself out to the east coast and then find somewhere to stay on the south coast because I'm not exactly sure where we're stopping tomorrow night. And I've got to make sure I don't run out of fuel in between. So I think we've got 1 or 2 fueling stops along the way. It's going to be a big day of flying tomorrow. In the next episode.
Hello Murray River, we meet again. Have I? No, I haven't done anything. Have I done something wrong? It should be okay to get through, but...
Traffic, 12 o'clock, safe altitude.
Well, we'll definitely end up on the east coast of Australia. The question is where? You'll notice we're now flying IFR. Hideously off track. I think this is going to be a bit of a failure, to be honest.